Philippines star Alexandra Eala sends Australian Open crowds into a frenzy. It is rare a player ranked 49th in the world would attract a crowd that virtually brought a Grand Slam tournament to a standstill. But such is the pulling power of Alexandra Eala. Melbourne Park was overcome with a feverish atmosphere on Monday as the rising star from the Philippines played her first-round match at the Australian Open. Eala faced American Alicia Parks on court 6 in front of a packed crowd, bursting at the seams with a passionate supporter base, which was largely made up of members of Australia's Filipinos community. Hundreds of spectators were turned away by security, while hordes of fans gathered in front of the big screens peppered around Melbourne Park, many proudly waving the Philippines' national flag. Those inside court 6 were cautioned more than once by chair umpire Yulia Ignachenko about the noise they were making, especially during points. Eala dominated Parks in the opening set but could not maintain the momentum, eventually losing 0-6, 6-3, 6-2. It was so heartwarming, Eala told her post-match media conference. That's one of the things that makes a loss like today a little bit harder, as I know a lot of people were rooting for me. The fact that everyone came out and really squeezed into that cozy court, I really appreciate it. I felt so loved. Even when I was 5-2 down in the third, I still felt the love. So I'm really appreciative and super thankful. Eala's history-making feats. Why is Eala so popular? At just 20, Eala is regarded as a national hero in the Philippines, and she enjoys an enormous following on social media. She is the first Filipinos player to crack the top 50 on either the WTA or ATP rankings, reaching her current standing on the eve of the Australian Open. Her rise was aided by a stellar run at last year's Miami Open, when she defeated major winners Iga Swiatek, Madison Keys, and Jelena Ostapenko on her way to the semifinals. A run to the Eastbourne Open final, where she lost to Australia's Maya Joint, also helped her climb the rankings. Later in the season, Eala became the first woman from the Philippines to win a match in the US Open main draw, courtesy of her 3-set defeat of Clara Tauson. A hint about Eala's popularity was given on the weekend, when a mass of fans swarmed upon Melbourne Park's remote court 22 to catch a glimpse of her practicing ahead of the Australian Open. Eala described the scenes as a bit overwhelming. "I'm still young, 20, so I'm learning how to deal with all of this attention," Eala said. "But then at the same time, I'm grateful." Despite her loss to Parks, Eala is proud of her showing in Melbourne and hopes she had a positive effect on her legion of fans. "I guess this is one of the moments that I can reflect on what this means for Philippines tennis," Eala said. "I'm the only Filipina in the draw this year. I'm the only Filipina that's ever been in the draw, I think. So there are positives to take away." The sun over Melbourne had a way of making everything feel louder, brighter whites, sharper blues, applause that cracked like summer thunder. On that court, surrounded by flags and accents from every corner of the world, Alexandra Eala stepped into a moment that would stretch far beyond the baseline. She was not just playing tennis, she was announcing herself. At first, the crowd didn't know what to expect. They saw the flag stitched onto her kit, the quiet composure in her walk, the familiar rituals of bounce-bounce serve. The Australian Open is a cathedral of champions, a place where reputations precede footsteps. Eala arrived without the heavy cloak of inevitability, but with something far rarer, a spark that grows brighter the closer you look. The opening games passed like polite conversation. A rally here, a nod of approval there. Then it happened, the point that shifted the air. A long exchange, the ball skimming the net like a held breath, until Eala sprinted wide and flicked a forehand down the line with the precision of a secret revealed. The crowd rose in one wave, surprised at itself, clapping not just the shot but the audacity of it. Somewhere between the third and fourth clap, a chant began, not loud, not yet confident, but alive. Alexandra Eala has always carried the Philippines with her in quiet ways. In the discipline of her footwork, in the patience she shows during a rally, waiting for the right moment rather than forcing the wrong one. On that day, the quiet traveled outward. Filipino fans in the stands found their voices. Others leaned forward, curious. Tennis crowds are connoisseurs. They know when they are witnessing the early chapters of a story worth following. As the match deepened, so did the frenzy. Eala moved with the calm of someone who had practiced this moment 1,000 times in her mind. She chased down balls that should have been winners and turned defense into invitation. Her backhand, clean, economical, spoke of hours spent refining a single truth: make the ball obey. When she broke serve, the sound in the stadium changed. It wasn't polite applause anymore. It was belief. Between points, she looked up briefly, as if measuring the noise, then returned to the work at hand. That focus, that refusal to be distracted by the theater of it all, only fueled the crowd further. There is something magnetic about an athlete who refuses to perform for applause yet earns it anyway. The chants grew steadier now, confident, rhythmic. Her name rolled across the stands like a promise. The Australian Open has always loved courage, the kind that shows up in long rallies and late sets. Eala gave them courage in abundance. She played with joy, but never recklessness. Every decision felt considered, every risk earned. When she slid into a backhand and popped up smiling, the crowd laughed with her, not at her. They were in it together now. For Filipino fans watching back home, the moment felt larger than sport. Time zones dissolved. Screens glowed in living rooms and cafes, and for a few hours the distance between Manila and Melbourne felt as thin as a tennis string. This was representation with a heartbeat. This was possibility wearing sneakers. As the match reached its climax, the noise became a living thing. Each point carried weight. Each miss drew a sympathetic groan. Eala's composure never wavered. She breathed, reset, trusted her training. When she struck the final decisive shot, clean, unapologetic, the eruption was immediate. People stood not because etiquette demanded it, but because their bodies had decided for them. She acknowledged the crowd with a small wave, a smile that hinted at gratitude without surprise. As if she had always known this would happen. As if this was only the beginning. Afterward, the headlines would talk about talent, about youth, about the promise of a rising star. They would measure forehands and rankings, speculate on futures. But those who were there would remember something else, the moment the Australian Open crowd learned her name and decided to carry it forward. Alexandra Eala walked off the court the same way she walked on, steady, focused, ready for the next challenge. The frenzy lingered behind her, echoing in the stands, in the city, across oceans. Tennis had gained a new story that day, and the crowd, having witnessed its first chapter, wanted more.